So if you remember correctly, at the end of the last video, we went through and we had basically copied the code from the repository on the website to our local computer, which is great. So how do we go start editing this? Well, we've got two different things we've got to do. We're going to set up the GitHub part, and then we can go edit it in our regular IDE, and then we come back to the GitHub part to save it. So with that in mind, here's our code. We're actually going to go start in GitHub Desktop. Now, one of the big things you want to go do in terms of using GitHub or any sort of version control system is you want to immediately create a new branch to work off of. So what that means is that you can go basically make all of your changes in your own little isolated corner without accidentally, having anyone else, submit code that breaks your changes, or without accidentally submitting code that breaks someone else's changes. By creating a new branch, you basically keep things the way they are. You can develop in peace, and then when you're ready, you go bring everything back together and release it to the group. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new branch. Now, before we do that, we're going to really quickly hit this Fetch Origin button, and you'll see that it's fine. If it says to pull, we want to do that first. The second thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our current branch is on main. So this is literally basically the main branch of the project, and so this is where all of the final code goes. If this is a business, typically this is your production code that goes out to servers or clients or things like that. For a class project, this is just typically what you demo when it's time to go demo. So what we're going to do is we're on main, so we're in the right place, and we're going to go create a new branch. So we can do that by hitting this drop down here, hitting new branch, and giving it a name. So we can go through, and typically this is a descriptive name based on what you're going to be working on. So I know that what I'm going to be creating is a point class. So I'm going to say create point class, and then hit the create branch button. And so now you've noticed that our current branch is create point class. So that means that if anyone else submits something to master, or if we submit anything to this, we don't, accidentally break anything else. So now that we've gone through and we have, basically figured out what our repository is, we're going to go through and we're going to open it up in whatever editor we want to. For this particular demo, I'm going to use VS Code just because it's already integrated and we can just open it here. But you're welcome to go open this up in whatever editor you want, like IntelliJ, JEdit, BlueJ, anything like that, depending on what you need for your project or your employer. But I'm just going to be using VS Code really quickly for the demo. So then what you can do is you can go quite literally do all your coding. So you've got all the files and folders on your machine. You can go program it up. So I'm going to go create a quick couple classes, and then we'll come back soon. Okay, so I just threw together some really quick Java classes, and we're going to be improving these over time to go show how you would edit over time, because we don't have a whole lot of complex stuff we can do for a quick recording like this. But what we're going to do is we're going to do some test-driven development. So we wrote up some unit tests here just to go make sure that if we create a point, that the x is equal to the x once we store it, and the y is equal to the y once we store it. So with all of that, we have some unit tests written, and I wrote up a quick little point class. And I know that there are some errors in this one, but that's okay. What we're going to do here is we're going to demonstrate some of the power that GitHub can have in terms of basically managing the build stuff for you so that you can go protect your own work and everyone else's work this way. So what we want to go do here is we're going to demonstrate, how do you get code from your computer to GitHub. And it really doesn't matter the quality at this point, because what we're going to do the rest of this tutorial series is how do you go validate the quality during the whole process. So just at the bare minimum of getting your code from your computer to GitHub, what we're going to do is we've typed it up in our editor, and then we've gone through and saved it. Now we're going to head back to GitHub Desktop or your Git client. Now you'll notice here, we can go see that there are two changed files. So we have a new file for point.java and a new file for point.test.java. So as you can see, GitHub already knows which files you're working on editing. Now, currently, right now, you can go through and see that they're checked, which means they're staged. So staged means basically that you're going to save them when you go through and hit the save button. So it's the equivalent of opening up the, file save as in Microsoft Word, and you're getting ready to save them, but they're not saved yet. We can still edit it, and GitHub will have no idea that we're editing it until we actually save it. So how do we go through and save it? Well, what we want to go through and do is we're going to go create a commit. Now, a commit is basically going through and hitting the save button on that Word document. Although admittedly, it's a bit more closely related to saving something to like the edit history of Google Drive. So what you're doing here is it's basically a snapshot of all the code and all the changes you've made at this point that you're going to save as a save point. So what you're going to do is you can create a commit down here. You'll give it a quick summary. So I'm going to say that this is added the point test class. I'm actually going to uncheck the point class at the moment. So we'll just show the test class at the moment. And we can add a description if we want to. I'm going to say that this is a test class. Obviously, if you're working on a programming team, especially at a large company, you'll have more stringent requirements about what you've got to go fill out here for this sort of thing. But for just this quick demo, we can go put anything there, just make it descriptive so you know what it is. And what you're going to do is now you're ready to save. So this is like you've given the file a name, you've selected what you're going to save, and once you hit this commit button, you're going to go save it. Now note really quickly that this commit button says we're committing to the create point class. Now what does this mean? Well, remember how we were on main earlier and then we created a new branch? This is the equivalent of, what folder you're saving it into effectively. So we're going and saving all of our stuff in the create point class for the time being, and we can go click that, and now it's saved. Now here's the thing though. It's only saved on your local machine. If we head over to github.com, you'll notice if we head over to the source tree, even though we saved it, there's no point class here, and there's no point class test here. Well, why is that? Well, you've saved it, but you need to go do an extra step to get it onto GitHub. And to do that, you've got to do what's called a push. So from the GitHub desktop, we can go through here, and right now it says publish because we haven't done it before. So we're going to hit that. And that will go through and that will act as a push. Now, if we're doing regular development stuff and we want to keep doing it, so we're going to get this one ready. What we want to do is actually create point.java is fine as a commit name for this demo. What we do is we'd fetch origin first. And then if there's any changes since you last saved it, say maybe a teammate's working on something, what you do is it'll prompt you to go pull. And what a pull is that goes and it gets all of the code changes that have happened that other people have saved since you last did on at least this branch. And that way you get up-to-date changes. You fix your stuff to go match with those changes. Then you go through, we stage it. We go through and we hit commit. And now you notice it's got a push button here with the little 1 next to it. That means we have one local thing saved that's not up on GitHub. As soon as we hit push here, it will go save it to GitHub, and it'll go fetch everything back again. And now, if we go back and take a look at github.com and we refresh it, if we go through and we select our create point class here, you can see there's the new code that we have. And there's the new code here. So with that in mind, you're able to go make changes really easily, but you've got to make sure that you do it, both a save and a push. And every time, the other thing too is before you hit commit, make sure you pull. So just to go over the order one last time, you've gone through, you've typed up all your code in JEdit or VS Code or IntelliJ or whatever you're using. You've saved it there. Your changes show up here. You go through, you fetch and you pull. Then you do the checkboxes. Then you do the commit. And then you head back up here to push. So you make a nice little circle there. And so that is the logistics of going through and making code changes on GitHub. Basically, you keep repeating that step of code change, pull, stage, commit, push over and over again until you're done.